Zinfandel is a finicky grape. It's known for uneven ripening. It's got thin skins that make it sensitive to heat waves and rain events. And these are challenges that you'd think might lead to uninspiring wine. But I like to think about them as opportunities. They allow us to rethink our winemaking. They allow us to revise our preconceptions. And they allow us to make something that's really cool. I'm Alison Frichtl Hollister, winemaker for BACA Wines, and I'm so pleased to have with me today two winemakers and the director of ZAP, and we're going to talk about the unique challenges of Zinfandel. I hope you have some nice wines open to taste along. We'll be tasting today. We also have a great sale going on. Just check out our website, hallwines.com, and look for the red, white, and new sale. So without further ado, I'd like to start introducing our guests. And coming up, she should be popping up shortly. Here she is. This is Rebecca Robinson, director of ZAP. Becky, how are you?
Hi, Alison. Great. So wonderful to be with you.
So glad to have you with us. Tell us, what does ZAP stand for?
I'm so glad you asked. ZAP stands for Zinfandel Advocates and Producers. ZAP has been around for 30 years, and we truly believe, and I think it's proven every day when you open a bottle of Zinfandel, that Zinfandel in the hands of wonderful winemakers such as yourself and your guests is truly a world-class wine.
Well, we're so happy to have your support and advocating for us, and I can't wait to talk with you about these wonderful wines we're going to taste today.
I'm very excited.
We are too, and we also have joining us two winemakers from representing Sonoma and Napa, and these two have done so much for the Zinfandel varietal in winemaking style, ingenuity, advances, and I am personally so excited to have these guys on the show with us today. I have Andy Robinson with Seghesio Family Wines, and also Tress Getting with Biale Wines. Guys, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Very good. Yeah,
excellent.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
So glad you could join us. Andy, tell us, you're over there in Sonoma. Areas of Sonoma kind of ripen earlier than others. What are you seeing for veraison out there?
We've started. I think we caught our first sight of veraison middle of last week, and so I would imagine with this weather that we're having, we're going to be moving pretty quickly through veraison. That's always the part of the year that it starts to really put the dates on the calendar for when we're going to pick. But I think it's ready. It's time to get ready. So.
It's an exciting time. You're like, okay, we're like 60 days out. It's time to start getting excited.
Yep.
Yeah. And Tress, are you currently bottling like we are at the winery? What's going on in the cellar for you these days?
We are bottling next week, so it's the calm before the storm. Although what the week before bottling is like, it's almost just as chaotic with getting lots out of barrels into tank to position and doing final blend tweaks and receiving glass and corks and foils and making sure your ducks are lined up. So that's what we're doing. It's busy, and you've got that going on, and you're seeing veraison happening out of the other corner of your eye, and so it's time to shift gears. That's what it feels like. So yeah,
we like to call it dynamic. You got to keep us on your toes. There's
right.
always and I swear I've talked to winemakers that would choose harvest over bottling any day. They'd rather just do harvest all year than have to do bottling.
I would myself for sure.
Yeah. It's our last shot. Well, all right. To get our show started, we thought it would be fun to start off with a game. And as you know, all of our wines are named after games. So we'd like you all to get your can of BACA, Ring Around the Rosé. And we're going to be playing a game called Never Have I Ever. And for those of you that aren't familiar of how this game works, I'm going to be making some statements. And if any of those statements are something true that you've actually done, you can raise your can and let us know. All right, are you guys ready?
We're ready.
Yeah.
Yep.
Never have I ever put ice cubes in my white wine. Yeah, crack those open.
That was me. I'm the first crack. I have to admit it.
It's refreshing.
Yes.
Or it fixes a horrible white wine.
It does. It does.
All right. Never have I ever drunk wine out of a solo cup.
Oh.
I have. No, there's nothing else.
Okay.
I think
I'll
mine
give
was
that.
styrofoam.
Styrofoam? All right, I'll take that. I'll take styrofoam. Here's one. All right. Never have I ever drunk a corked wine because it was only a little bit corked.
Oh.
I will actually admit, I'm like, it's earthy.
I did it just because I was too embarrassed to tell my friend who was so proud of the bottle he had brought to share.
Oh, that's really
I
sweet.
didn't want to ruin it.
You're a nice friend.
Yeah, that's a tough one. When you're in that setting, it's like, this is the only wine we have.
Yeah. Maybe just put some ice in it too, and you know.
And bring it out of a solo cup. Yeah.
Some cellophane, some saran wrap.
Exactly. All right, next question. Never have I ever accidentally opened the wrong valve on a wine tank and got wine all over myself.
Oh.
Andy, really?
I'm going to be pretty buzzed after this game.
So I haven't opened the wrong valve, but have you ever had one that's stuck? And then all of a sudden it comes loose.
Yeah,
that's gotten me before.
And it's like, oh, is this a butterfly or a ball valve? And then
Yeah,
it's
it's a butterfly with stems stuck in it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely safe on this one. I've never opened a valve in the cellar.
If you ever want to
Part of my
explain,
training.
come on down.
Yeah.
I opened the wrong back valve and took the complete set off of a full tank, and had to put my body in front of the valve to hold the pressure in while I yelled for help in front of my entire new harvest team. That was quite embarrassing.
I think though these young, interns are so excited to help, and they like want to run up and just like, yeah, we're gonna pull it back. We're gonna do this. It's exciting times. All right, next question. Never have I ever chosen a wine just because I liked the label.
Oh.
Like all of these.
Yeah.
That's part of market research, Alison. That's, you've got to check that out. Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah.
Speaking of which, these are pretty cool, Alison.
That's fun.
These. Yeah,
I like the feel of it,
I love
too.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's darn tasty too. Good
Yeah.
job.
All right. Win-win. Thanks, guys. All right. I have one more question. Never have I ever underestimated the attendance of a major Zinfandel event. That one's for you, Rebecca.
Oh, thank you, boy. That was a softball. All right. The story is when Zap was still doing our events at Fort Mason, and we would have 10,000 people go through the two buildings in a day. And I'm watching the wine glasses go out the door by the hundreds. in the hundreds. And I turned to my caterer and I said, I don't know that we're going to have enough glasses for the next section of the event. And he looked at me and he said, okay, we've got this. And he had his team run down to the South Bay and bring back several hundred more glasses. Nobody knew. As it turned out, we didn't need them, but here's to good event planning.
Here's to that. And working well under pressure.
That's right. That's right. Grace under pressure.
That's right. That's right. Well, I do want to remind our viewers too that they're welcome to chime in with questions. I'm going to be reviewing those, and there'll be space for questions at the end too. So chime in as questions come up, because you have some really technical winemakers right here. And speaking for myself anyway, I do like to nerd out on wines. So I'm actually looking at a really wonderful lineup of Zinfandel here. So how about we taste some of these, guys?
Sounds great. Where are you going to begin?
Well, I'd like to begin with Andy. Tell us a little bit about, can you show us, do you have a bottle that you can show us you brought?
Absolutely. So I brought the 2017 Cortina Zinfandel, and that's from Dry Creek Valley. So a little bit of history on the wine is that, Dry Creek Valley is pretty synonymous with Zinfandel, especially in Sonoma County right now, and for a long time, for about 150 years. This wine is from a ranch that was purchased by the Seghesio family in 1955, and that was purchased by Ted's side of the family. So Ted Seghesio is a fourth generation Seghesio. He was the winemaker that I learned everything from, and his father, Ed. So him and his brothers and sisters and his dad owned that land, and planted in 1972, and actually was planted and grafted by Ted and his dad and some of their other workers, but so really tied to the history of this vineyard, and especially because one of the stories I always hear, I've never grafted a vineyard myself, but one of the things that people would do if you really were good at it was that you'd put your initials on the end post of the rows that you did. So the danger in that is that, if you did a really bad job, everyone's going to know for the next 50 years that you grafted that row that had to be redone afterwards. So Ted was always really proud of getting a certain amount of takes in the vineyard, because that's pretty challenging, grueling work, just all day on your knees in the dirt. But that kind of work really came to fruition for us with this wine. We didn't make it until 1998, which was before my winemaking time, but I know that it was a pretty wet vintage, I think, in California. And lo and behold, that produced the first vineyard designate that Seghesio made for Zin, and it was from Cortina. From that vineyard. And we call it Chen's Vineyard. It was renamed after a family, a Seghesio family member. But the actual name Cortina originally came from the soil type, which is this fine gravelly loam that's prevalent throughout Dry Creek. And we find that it yields Zinfandel that is a bit more floral, really bright and kind of red fruited. We get a bit of a white pepper character, but also the structure just has this really fine integrated tannin structure that for us, and especially in our portfolio, it sets this wine apart from the other Zins. It is 100% Zin, which also puts it in a certain category of Zinfandel, right? And it's very common to find blended Zin, and our other wines mostly have Petit Syrah or Alicante or something in them, but this one's 100%. And so we just really want to showcase that as much as possible.
It's luscious. It's gorgeous.
It's going to be on my dinner table tonight. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say it's going to be on my dinner table tonight. All of these are.
It might be on mine as well. I'm not sure. They're all tasting really good. I taste enough of this. So, but it's always a highlight for me.
Yeah, this is great, Andy, because you really do. It tastes like Dry Creek. So you achieved the ultimate goal of tasting these sites. So nicely done.
Thanks. Yeah,
and it's got really great depth for 100% Zin too.
Yeah, there's some, it's kind of interesting how this wine, how this kind of wine came to be, and that the way the vineyard is laid out, there's those two original old blocks, which only one of them is left. So we had, all of it was planted head trained originally, and about half of it was converted to a trellis system in I think mid 1980s. So it was about 12 years old at the time, and it suffered from a bit of Pierce's disease and stuff on the head train lots, or the part that remained head train. But there's also quite a bit more sand and gravel as you get closer to the creek. So for aspect and geography's sake, we're in between West Dry Creek and Dry Creek Road. So we're in the middle of the valley, not on the hillside, which we do grow a bunch of Zin on the hillside as well. But this is, creekside, and there's a certain part of the vineyard where it's really distinguished that it just ripens a lot faster. It's really well drained, and that kind of provides the heart of the wine, and then the remainder kind of builds around it. But it's like, even as much as we'd like to keep one part out, and because we really like it, we love that heart we call Sandpoint. It really is part of the complete wine, which is it's kind of a fun thing that we do with it. But we do pick it separate, and our vineyard crew hates it because we have to like walk out there and pick. We're like, no, it's this road to the west is Sandpoint.
That's always, I think that's part of the challenge, and part of the fun part is breaking up a vineyard into sections. If you have the ability to pick in ripening patterns, I mean, that's the ultimate in producing really fine wine.
Yeah.
I'm also curious, I think it's really cool that you've worked for a place that has such a long history in the Valley. And I'm really curious what are some of your favorite older vintages? Are they still drinking well?
Yeah. So it's kind of, I was able to, I feel really blessed that I got lucky. I started with Seghesio in 2003 in an enologist role. And at every turn, there was more to learn and more to do. And, so for me, being able to work with, to be fair, we do purchase quite a bit of fruit, but we tend to purchase the same fruit every year. So we've worked with so many of our growers and our own vineyards for so long that when I started here, I knew this is where I wanted to learn. I wanted to build that, history of the vintages and the wines. And so right now, I'd still say that through the 2000s, 2005, 7, and 9 are standouts for me for our wines. In 2005, I tasted the old vine that we make, which is an old vine blend from all over Sonoma County. Most recently was actually showing that in some travels last year, and people were blown away because it helps to change people's minds on what they think about aged Zinfandel. And I love being able to do that, because I think as a Zin producer, people we're kind of fighting a lot of preconceived notions a lot. And Zinfandels don't age is a classic one.
Yep.
It's a style just like any other wine that, some people might like aged wines and some people don't. But to say that a varietal doesn't age is crazy, because there's a lot of good examples out there that top producers when they pull them out of their stash, it's really fun to try them. I know like Ravenswood and Ridge always do that at big tasting. That's really fun. Yeah. But those three stand out for me as far as kind of that time frame. And then probably flash forward to like 2013. It was really balanced vintage. But yeah, 2010 and 11 were really cold and kind of weird. And the wines, I would say, were kind of hard upon release, but I think there were wines that would just kind of age forever.
Yeah, there seems like the conditions for that. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up about that being one of our challenges as Zin winemakers when getting this, this notion that they don't age. And I think that's part of what's great about making Zin too, is it's kind of a chameleon. There are a lot of different ways you could push this variety stylistically. And I think the three of us would agree that we want to make wines that are nuanced and stand the test of time. And I think I'm just really excited about what we're doing with contemporary Zins right now.
I agree.
Yeah. So shall we taste Tress's wine next? Tress, I just wanted to say that, when I was given the chance to start making BACA Zinfandel in 2016, and I reached out to you, and you've been such a great help, and your wines are really inspiring. So please show us what you brought today, and tell us a little bit about the wine.
Yeah, thank you. This will be fun. And by the way, that's flattering that you called upon me for that, and I remember that, and kind of just sitting down several times and just talking everything's in like we are now, and then to watch you run with it and to now taste your successes is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So good job.
Thanks, Tress.
And thank you. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to taste the 2018 R.W. Moore here today from Robert Biale. And this is one of my favorite Zins we do. We do 15 different designate Zinfandels here at Biale. And of those, and of course, as you guys know, a lot of the people watching probably don't, but the reason why we do that is to showcase, like I was telling Andy, I can taste that is Dry Creek. Well, this is going to taste like Coombsville. And that's our ultimate goal when we make Zinfandel, just like with Pinot Noir. It's very expressive of the site. And when you taste all of our 15 different Zinfandels, they are all different animals. And that's exactly what we want. So we'll focus on Coombsville, Napa Valley right here and kind of break this down and talk about what that gives you and why. So Coombsville, if you don't know, is in the southeast section of Napa Valley. So it's a little special pocket within Napa Valley that kind of remains on the cooler side of things. It's influenced by the San Pablo Bay. It's shadowed by Mount George, which looms over the entire appellation, and basically created the soils that are there, which are really responsible for how this wine feels in your mouth, how it smells, how it tastes, everything. Mount George essentially created, when it had erupted millennial ago, had created this cauldron, and it filled its own self in with its own ash. And so the soils there, I like to call it moonscape or cake batter soil. It's that kind of crunch puff as you walk through the rows, and it's super well drained, of course, because of that. But other things that lends toward the wine is its incredible viscosity and weight. You can feel that weight when it hits your palate. It's just this plush, rich, dense fruit. And a lot of people would associate that with sweetness, but it's dry as a bone. It's just that high pH, and that's coming from the site itself. It's just a high pH site, and it has that character. You also get, these beautiful kind of rich, exotic fruit profiles, kind of tropical fruit, a little bit of like cotton candy. And again, these all sound like sweet descriptors, but it's just that density. There's dark plum, there's blue fruits in here, like and some blue flowers, which makes it really interesting. But it's really, for me, it's all about that weight and then that finish with a popping, mouth-watering acidity. So it just kind of does this whole bell curve, which is really fun. So going back to the vineyard itself, though, one of the really special things about this R.W. Moore is its age. And beside the location, it was planted in 1905. So a really true example of old vine Napa Valley Zin. It's dry farmed, it's head trained, it's a field blend, it's all the classics that you would expect from an old vineyard. There it is. Yeah, so that's the Moore vineyard with the red barn in the back there. And this vineyard now belongs to Bill Moore. He's the caretaker of this vineyard now. It was originally planted in 1905 by Pleasant Stevens, who was a seafarer who came over from San Francisco and decided he would buy this plot of land and plant it to Zinfandel. And it's still producing beautiful wines, as you can see. The really cool part about the age in this specific AVA of Coombsville is that it is the oldest vineyard in the AVA, and it's the only Zinfandel. Well, it used to be. I think there's a few now, but when I first started here, it was the oldest vineyard and the only Zinfandel in Coombsville. So pretty cool. There's a nice shot of the old vines there. Big, long clusters, just gorgeous picture, perfect. Well, besides that raisin one in the background, we'll sort that one out later. But but these beautiful long clusters, right? It's the other thing about R.W. Moore that's real special, and Becky can back me on this, as Zap was involved with UC Davis on a heritage project for basically getting genetic material from this vineyard and getting out into the nurseries so that other winemakers in the future can now plant this clone, this wine. And it's very versatile. We just planted some on our property here at Biale, which is in the Oak Knoll district of Napa Valley. Yeah, our front block, we took it out, and it was kind of had some, it was just too wet there. So we ripped it out. We put new drain tiles in, figured out the moisture, and then replanted it with the R.W. Moore clone. And we're really happy with it. This will be the second vintage we bring it in, but I just walked it today and it looks beautiful. So very exciting. And it does well. We've planted it in a few different places now since. And so it's fun to see this clonal selection thrive in other areas. And that was part of the reason why this selection did so well. In the analysis of it, it started out with 90 different selections from California in the original trial. From 50 vineyards and 14 counties. And this one made it into the top 4 in 2014 as a new selection. And Zap spearheaded that along with UC Davis. And it's really fun for me to now work with this. So it's just a beautiful wine. As far as winemaking goes, I tend to make all of our Zins, but particularly this one, handle it very gently. Kind of treat it like a Pinot Noir. I'm sure that's what you guys do as well, because I can taste it. The wines are very pretty and elegant. That's what we're trying to achieve. At least I am. And, part of that, achieving that, is the handling of this fruit. And so it's all hand picked, hand sorted. It's all gravity fed into open top tanks. It's punched down by hand a few times a day at its peak. Press it, close to dryness, maybe a little bit before dryness, depending on tank availability and how hot it is and what crew I can get for my next pick and other logistics. But try to get it close to dryness, and then lightly press, and then put it into about 100% French oak. I use all Burgundy barrels, so I like the thicker staves on these, and avoid oxygen for the most part. And then of that 100%, it's 25% new. And then I'll inoculate for malolactic fermentation. Let that happen in the barrel shay, and then rack it clean once it's dry, and then pretty much put it back in clean barrels and forget about it for a while, and really try not to mess with it. So pretty minimalistic, and just trying to know when to get out of the way really is the goal here. So
I think
hopefully you can
that's
taste
the hardest parts.
That is
Being patient. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And the second hardest part is this time of year when it's about ready to be bottled, the last vintage, and you feel like you need to do something to it, but you really don't. But you have to just walk away because you feel like you need to tweak it. And
Right.
you just have
You're
to.
not doing your job or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Trent, this wine, I just love the spiciness of it. And I love how unique it is from, really distinctive from the Dry Creek terroir we tasted earlier, and now the spiciness of the Napa wine that also has some other varieties blended in it too, which really make it distinctive. These have both been beautiful wines. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. How about I would love to introduce our third wine.
Yes.
Our BACA wine. Do you guys have your glasses ready for that?
I do.
Here we go. Yeah.
So I chose to present our 2018 Somersault Zinfandel. This is also 100%. Oh, actually, I did blend a little Carignan into this for spice, for some fun. But we're really excited about this wine because we heard about this fruit that came available in Mendocino from a vineyard called Piccini, which is another heritage vineyard like we've been talking about today. 100-year-old vines, and it was just brought back by the great-grandson, who's this larger-than-life character who's so excited about growing the best grapes he can. Someone that's exactly the kind of person we want to partner with to make these grapes, to make our wines. And he's also sustaining farming sustainably, and he's even using herds of sheep for really cute lawnmowers in the spring, which is quite charming for us. So you can see these vines are they were trained they're short, they're small, compact vines, even though they were planted 100 years ago, 120 years ago. And so these produce really concentrated fruit. I also wanted to share this wine with you guys today because on my journey of making Zin that started in 2016, 2018 was, as you know, a later vintage. And we had some rain events later in the season, right around when this was ripening. And so that kind of threw me off at first. I was questioning, do I hedge? Do I pick now? Or do I let it kind of ride out the storm and let it ripen a little bit further? So what I did was I did both. I did 2 picks, and that's something that really allowed me to compare those 2 wines and techniques and bringing out the best of those because I'm really working towards picking my grapes a little bit earlier, really aiming for freshness in Zin and to bring out a lot of nuance in the wine and flavors other than, we all love the fruit flavors. But I think this one has a really beautiful floral perfume to it too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How are you? Yeah. What are your impressions of this one?
There's a hint, or there's an element to it that I compared to Cortina because that's also a site that we strive to bring in a little bit earlier. And there's a very attractive floral component in your wine, in the Somersault also, that you miss it if you go too far, and it'll be gone in a day probably.
Right.
Those kind of elements. It's really exciting, especially. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but during fermentation, that's when I noticed some really amazing smells, and and you can get that clue right away that you got it right.
Absolutely.
Alison, this has such a beautiful structure to it, and the finish, it lingers in such a gorgeous way. And again, great. I mean, I'm all about Zinfandel and food and how it just marries the flavors. And this just is, you know, this just screams lamb. It just absolutely, you know, is going to be a fantastic complement to so many dishes. So congratulations. It's beautiful wine. And Pacini Vineyard, of course, is another famous Zinfandel vineyard that, you know, is part of that legendary family of vineyards around California.
Yeah, we're really proud to be part of preserving these historic sites, and it's a real honor to make such beautiful wines out of them, for sure. Yeah.
Hey, Alison, where in Mendocino I don't know this vineyard, so is it toward the coast or is it inland? Where in Mendocino is it?
It's nestled up against the western slope of the Mayacamas Mountains, just east of Ukiah up there. So
Okay. Yeah.
this was actually hand terraced when it was first put into. So there's some terraced areas, which is a lot of labor. And it's just gorgeous because the backdrop to this vineyard is the slope of the Mayacamas. It's all chaparral, and you've got, you know, ocean influence coming in from the west, and it's an incredible site. And it's actually ripened. You know, I've been working with it since 18, and in 18 it ripened in October, and then in 19 it was ready in September. It was ready way earlier, so that definitely was interesting to me and kept me on my toes there. It's like, all right, really, it's fun getting to know these sites and to bring out, like you guys have both said, the individuality in each of these sites we're working with, because the wines are so distinctive.
Yeah.
Well, and this is something that ZAP is celebrating too, the Legendary Vineyards program that we've launched. And R.W. Moore is actually going to be a featured vineyard, but there are so many others that deserve that recognition. And it just really tells that historic story of why Zinfandel is so special in California, and the fact that this has been in the ground for so long. Do you know the age of Pacini?
It's about 120. It was planted in 1900, and they actually did just go through the process of registering it with a historic vineyard society as well.
That's
so
great.
you can find it. They have a website that you can find more information about them. Yeah.
We've been doing a series of videos to really tell the story of these wonderful vineyards, and really that's what it's going to take. All of you've put a stake in the ground, and you've really said that you want to love and to cherish these special vineyards. And all of your viewers out there, you know, have this chance to really taste history in a bottle. It is amazing, and it is something that is unique for California. And that's, again, the story we want to celebrate, is the work that all of you are doing to make these great wines from these vineyards.
Becky, you couldn't have said it better. And I just wanted to say that it's been so cool of you having us on with 3 winemakers to talk about wines together, because I think it's really important to have input from outside the clique too. So it's been a lot of fun having your input and how you're helping to advocate this variety.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm honored. And I have to confess, I mean, I have been a Zinfandel lover for many, many years, even before I started as executive director. And it is a passion, and it is something that we celebrate in our family, you know, on a not quite daily basis. But I will say that, especially being shelter in place, we've definitely been celebrating Zinfandel quite a bit. And and it's really an honor to be able to work with all of you wonderful wineries and winemakers.
Cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I do have a couple questions that we want to ask. Okay, so one question: what is your favorite characteristic about Zin? Rapid fire. Becky.
The versatility.
Versatility. Tress.
Spice and fruit.
Andy.
Yeah, medium bodied.
Medium bodied. And then mine, I think, is how well it grows in California in diverse climates. Okay. And then we did have someone asking, we've been talking about a lot about picking, and we did have someone ask what the alcohol percentages are on the wines we tasted today. So Andy, do you remember what yours were?
Ours is like 15.5.
Uh-huh.
Not shy in the world of wines, but striving for balance always.
Yes. Doesn't show the alcohol at
Does
all.
not. No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
very balanced.
beautiful.
Mine is the more is at 14.8.
Yeah, and it's funny, we all have to look. We don't have it memorized. Mine is 14.9. So I wanted to wrap it up, ask you guys, do you have any last thoughts about our conversation today?
Well, I'll go since these guys are so shy. You're not give them a moment to compose their thoughts. But again, I wanted to thank you, Alison, for giving me the opportunity to share this time with all of you. It has been absolutely delightful. And like I said, the big benefit is that, we get to taste these wonderful wines with dinner tonight. And we had talked offline a little bit about how to ZAP as an organization go forward in this time when we really cannot get together. And so I wanted to share with your viewers that we do have many videos where we're talking about all aspects of Zinfandel, and we're releasing more of these as time goes on throughout the next 6 months. We've got another series that are coming out. And we also put a stake in the ground, and this is under the Hope Springs Eternal Always, that we can gather together, because ZAP has been known for getting together every January as part of our Zinfandel experience. And while we are no longer the 10,000 person Bacchanal at Fort Mason, we have reinvented ourselves and reimagined ourselves so that we can truly showcase the quality of what it is that all of you are doing with Zinfandel. And we do have January 28, 29, and 30 set aside to come together. And I'm just going to show this to everybody. It's on the website under ZinfandelExperience.com, but this is social zinstancing. So, you have to laugh, because otherwise, you just have to laugh. And so we hope that we can all come together. But in the meantime, we are going to continue to showcase what all of you are doing. So please send us that information so that we can put that out to the world and to continue to celebrate the history and heritage of Zinfandel. So again, that's my 2 cents on it. And I just love going along for the ride. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Becky. And Tress and Andy, tell us, where can we buy your wines? Can we still visit your tasting rooms?
Okay, thanks, Andy. Just go to biale.com, easy.
Yep.
And we are open. It's best to make an appointment. Give us a call. We're very flexible. It's easy to get in, but we try to get appointments because we are seating with social distancing out on our patio outdoors, and we have the whole process down. You're going to have a great, safe experience out overlooking our beautiful back vineyard, looking up towards Mount St. Helena, and we're happy to have you. So come on in.
Yeah, it's similar here, Seghesio.com, and we're doing by appointment tastings outside in the Grove in front of the winery on Grove Street and in Healdsburg, and we're itching to pour wines for folks. So really encourage people to get on the website and check it out, and then keep an eye out at your local some of your grocery stores or various other online outlets for picking up our wines there as well.
Great. Yeah, similar with us here. All of our properties are open for outdoor tastings. We just remind you to please make a reservation, and we'd just be so happy to see you. Please come by. Just great job, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, Alison, thank you so much. Great, have a great harvest, everybody. Stay safe. And I can't wait to taste the next vintage. So just keep up the good work.
Absolutely.
We'll
Do
try.
our best. Thank you guys.
All
Good
right,
job.
thank you,
Thanks.
guys. This was great.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everyone. That was a fun show. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We have a lot of great guests lined up next week, too, including Runaway Jane, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and Catherine O'Hara. So, everyone, just a reminder to stay healthy and sip up.